Chapter 1. A World Built for Kids. Alan Reynolds had learned that mornings with two children were best approached like gentle negotiations with unpredictable diplomats. Not because Rick and Polly were difficult, far from it, but because both of them woke up every day with new priorities, new demands, and new imaginative crises that required immediate attention. This morning's crisis involved dragons, unwashed cereal bowls, and the ethics of eating marshmallows before brushing one's teeth. "Dad," Rick announced as he hopped into the kitchen, "I've decided the wolf-boar hybrid is too easy to beat. We need something that can climb trees." Alan poured coffee with the seriousness of a surgeon. "Good morning to you, too." "Morning," Rick repeated, then resumed. "So I was thinking, a jaguar bear? That's ambitious," Alan said. "Let's eat breakfast before we rewrite the ecosystem." Polly entered the kitchen a moment later, still wrapped in a blanket cape, her curls in a sunrise-colored halo. "Daddy, Grandma says I get to pick the theme for next month's gardening competition." "That's dangerous," Alan warned with a grin. "The last time you picked the theme, everyone's gardens were neon pink." "They were beautiful," Polly insisted. "They were glowing," Alan countered. The neighbor's cat refused to walk past the house for a week. Polly giggled and climbed into her seat. Rick was already shoveling cereal into his mouth between excited explanations of how a jaguar bear would stalk players. Something inside Alan softened. This was the exact kind of chaotic warmth he had fought to preserve after the divorce. The kids hadn't gotten the childhood he once imagined, but he was determined to give them memories they treasure. "Okay," Alan said once both kids were munching happily. "Today's plan: you two go to Mom's after lunch, but before that we're doing some in-game testing. The festival scripts need a final check." Polly clapped. "Festival day." Rick grinned behind a milk mustache. "I want to test the quest line that gives you the monster lure." "You just want to fight beasts." "No, I want to design the beasts," Rick corrected proudly. Alan sipped his coffee, letting the warmth spread through him. "You know, when I dreamed of becoming a programmer, I didn't picture spending my adult life fixing other people's code." "Isn't that your job?" Polly asked. "It is," Alan admitted. "But this," he gestured vaguely toward the home office, where the game server hummed and monitors waited. "This is the good stuff." The kids ate quickly, then sprinted toward the office with the enthusiasm of people who believed chairs and walls were merely suggestions. Alan followed at a more reasonable pace. The office was small but cozy, two desks pushed together, each with a computer. His rig dominated the corner with a tangle of cables and the hum of a machine slightly too powerful for a suburban house. On the opposite side, Rick and Polly shared a desk cluttered with sketches, pencils, craft paper, and a distressing quantity of stickers. The game world loaded on all three screens, revealing a vibrant valley dotted with player-built cottages, vegetable gardens, and river paths. Characters in colorful outfits bustled around the main square, most of them controlled by his mother and her friends, the Matriarchs. Even thinking the name made him smile. Years ago, when Alan needed more players to stress-test the server, he had invited his mother to join. She had taken to the gardening mechanics like a general to a battlefield, and within months she had a full guild of older women united by the dual passions of crafting and gossip. Polly, the honorary matriarch, practically lived in their in-game guild hall. Today, as soon as Alan logged in, his chat box lit up like a Christmas tree. "Matriarch Linda, Alan dear, the blueberry yield is too low." "Matriarch Joyce, also the cookie contest needs chocolate chips." "Matriarch Deborah, and someone stole my watering can." Alan sighed theatrically. "I feel like a medieval landlord who hasn't raised taxes in a month." Polly leaned over. "Grandma says you have to fix the blueberry bushes." Rick made a heroic groaning noise. "Dad, can we make a monster that steals watering cans? That would solve like 80% of matriarch problems." "Already on my list," Alan said. The three of them entered the festival grounds, a grassy clearing decorated with garlands and lanterns. NPC musicians played jaunty tunes while vendors sold pies, flower crowns, and suspiciously colorful potions. It was meant to be a cheerful, silly event, something wholesome the kids could enjoy and that grown players could use as a break from everyday stress. Polly's character pranced around in a sunflower cape, picking up petals for the crafting contest. Rick immediately ran toward the quest board, accepting every combat mission available. Alan watched them for a moment, letting himself feel the quiet pride that came with seeing something he built become a real part of their lives. Then his mother's avatar approached Lady Linda, wearing her signature floral apron and a gardening hat far too large for her character model. "Lady Linda, good morning, son. The roses are glitching again. They keep blooming in triangles." "Triangles," Alan muttered aloud. "How, never mind." "Matriarch Joyce, also someone put a giant goose behind the guild hall and it hisses at us." "Matriarch Deborah, it's terrifying." Rick snorted. "That goose is mine." "You're creating a senior uprising," Alan warned. "Worth it," Rick said. Polly stopped gathering petals to wave at the screen. "Hi, Grandma." "Lady Linda. Hello, my little matriarch. We're having a meeting later to vote on apron colors. Would you like to join?" "Yes," Polly squealed. Alan shook his head. "I've created a monster." "Not yet," Rick reminded him. But we can create a jaguar bear. Alan chuckled and opened the server tools to tweak parameters. He spent the next hour adjusting berry yields, fixing goose pathing, smoothing festival dialogue, and making sure Rick's newest beast design didn't immediately annihilate new players. Then his email chimed. Alan switched windows. The subject line read, "Town Community Board approved your post." He frowned. He hadn't posted anything recently. Had he? He clicked. There it was, a copy of the invitation he drafted last night for the upcoming stress test. The one he meant to send only to a small local online group, just to see if there was interest before pitching the game to a studio. Apparently, the admin had liked it so much that they shared it on the town's public board. And the post had 15 comments, 30 shares, 42 likes. "Oh no," Alan whispered. Rick perked up. "What's wrong?" Polly swiveled in her chair. "Is the server broken?" Alan stared at the screen. "No. Worse. People are excited." The kids exchanged confused looks. "That's good, right?" Polly asked. Alan wasn't sure. He wanted people to play, but he had pictured a quiet, controlled test, maybe 10 or 20 local players. Not an entire community descending upon the server like a wave of enthusiastic digital gardeners. He let out a slow breath. "Well," he said finally, "I guess we're about to find out how many people this thing can handle." Rick grinned. "Dad, this is awesome." Polly clapped again. "It's going to be like a festival. Alan tried to smile, although nerves fluttered in his chest. He glanced back at the bustling virtual valley. His valley, filled with the colorful chaos of matriarch gardeners, excited kids, and at least one rogue goose. If this was going to work, he needed to polish the game, prepare the server, and brace for whatever happened once the public arrived. He didn't know it yet, but one of those new players would change everything. For him, for his kids, and maybe for the world he built. Chapter 2, The Librarian Who Followed a Link. Maya Turner was not, by any objective measure, a reckless person. She alphabetized her tea collection, arranged books in her living room by emotional temperature, and routinely set alarms for things like, leave for work, start winding down, and don't forget the laundry again. She liked quiet predictability, soft spaces, warm mugs, and familiar routines. And yet, somehow, she found herself clicking on a community board post titled, "Local Game Developer Hosting Family-Friendly Fantasy World Stress Test. All ages welcome." She blinked at the description. Family-friendly online world. Crafting, gardening contests, zero profanity tolerance. Designed for local kids. She tilted her head. Ha! Her coworker, Jonah, leaned over the circulation desk with a grin that indicated he'd been watching her reaction. "You like games, right? Thought you'd enjoy that. It says family-friendly, Jonah. That might be code for chaotic. Exactly your taste." She elbowed him lightly, then reread the post. It was charmingly earnest, as if written by someone who genuinely wanted people to have fun without turning it into a competition about who could scream the loudest in voice chat. After the year she'd had, messy breakup, long nights with too much silence, and a creeping fear she'd misplaced her spark somewhere, maybe a gentle little fantasy world was exactly what she needed. "Fine," she murmured. "I'll try it." By the time she made it home that evening, the winter sun had dipped low, turning her apartment golden. She shed her scarf, fed her cat, who accepted the offering with haughty tolerance, and booted up her computer. The game's character creation screen greeted her with soft music and a watercolor backdrop of rolling hills. A message appeared. "Welcome to Valleystead. Choose your path." Maya scrolled through options. Gardener, baker, blacksmith, adventurer, weaver, forager, bard. 2 choices stood out immediately. "Forager bard," she said aloud. Because why not wander through forests collecting mushrooms while writing songs about them? She crafted her avatar. Curly hair, moss green tunic, satchel full of imaginary herbs. Upon loading in, she found herself standing in the town square, lanterns swaying gently above her. Almost immediately, a character wearing a floral apron and oversized gardening hat waddled toward her. "Lady Linda, welcome to our valley, dear. New players get cookies. Don't wander into the north woods. The goose is angry today." Maya snorted. She typed back, "Maya of the Meadows. Hello, I'm new. Should I be afraid of the goose?" Matriarch Joyce. "Yes, he bites." Matriarch Deborah. "And steals watering cans. Lock yours up." Maya laughed, an honest, warm sound she hadn't heard from herself in weeks. Then Maya of the Meadows. Noted. "If I perish, tell my story in song." Lady Linda. "Oh, we like you already." Within minutes, the matriarchs had swept her into their orbit. They introduced themselves as a guild of seasoned sages of soil and simmering pots. And they meant it. They insisted she taste virtual pies, warned her about Rick the kid who summons trouble. She had no idea who Rick was but already liked him, and directed her to the crafting stall where she could make her first flower crown. As she explored, she noticed how cozy everything felt. No flashing ads, no buy this premium bundle, no toxic chat, just soft colors, sweet music, and the gentle chaos of cheerful older women bickering over potato yields. She wandered out toward the meadow to gather ingredients. A set of lavender bushes glowed softly, perfect for novice foraging. She knelt, collected a few sprigs, and hummed as she worked. Then a shadow passed over her. She turned. A massive goose stood behind her, beady eyes unblinking. "Oh," Maya whispered. "You're real." She backed up carefully. The goose hissed. Maya bolted. The chase lasted long enough that her laughter filled the room, echoing off her quiet apartment walls. She barely threw herself behind a fence before the goose waddled off in offended triumph. Her chat log exploded. "Matriarch Joyce, did the goose get you?" "Maya of the Meadows, not today, but he knows my scent now." "Matriarch Deborah, we warned you." "Lady Linda, you handled that well. We've lost recruits over the goose before." Maya shook her head, still catching her breath. She didn't know who had created this absurdly delightful world, but they clearly understood whimsy. She played for another hour, gathering lavender, making simple potions, and listening to the matriarchs gently roast each other while crafting. She found herself smiling more than she had in months. Eventually, she logged off, stretched her arms, and leaned back in her chair. That was unexpectedly wonderful. Her cat jumped into her lap and kneaded contentedly. She stroked his fur, thinking about the world she just explored. A place made with care, intention, and humor. A place that felt safe. And somewhere inside that world, she imagined, was the developer who built it all. She wondered if he knew how much comfort it brought strangers like her. Meanwhile, across town, Alan sat at his desk reviewing the server logs. One entry caught his eye. New player registered. Maya of the Meadows. He scanned her session notes. Light foraging, potion crafting, goose encounter, several interactions with the matriarchs. Nothing unusual, but something about her play patterns stood out. Careful exploration. A few witty chat lines. She'd spent time in areas most new testers ignored. He smiled faintly. "Welcome to the Valley, Maya," he murmured, unaware his life had just taken a quiet, meaningful turn. Chapter 3, Quest Design with a Side of Pancakes. Saturday mornings in the Reynolds household had a sacred rhythm. Pajamas until noon, questionable hairstyles, and pancakes fluffy enough to double as flotation devices. Alan believed wholeheartedly that weekend breakfast should feel like a small celebration. Just the three of them, no rushing, no alarms, no schedules except the ones they made together. This Saturday followed that pattern like a ritual. Polly sat cross-legged at the kitchen table, carefully decorating her pancake with sliced strawberries arranged in a heart shape. Rick, meanwhile, was conducting a highly unnecessary experiment involving syrup viscosity and the surface tension of pancakes. Alan flipped another golden round onto a plate. "Do not," he said without turning. "Turn the pancakes into a monster summoning ritual." Rick froze mid-drip. "I wasn't." "You were absolutely about to," Alan replied, placing the spatula down. Polly giggled. "He was going to summon a syrup demon." "There are no syrup demons," Alan said, sliding into his seat. "That's in the rulebook." Rick raised an eyebrow. "You wrote the rulebook, and I stand by my decision." They ate happily for a few minutes, sunlight warming the kitchen through the blinds. These were the moments Alan lived for, ones that felt small but held the weight of something perfect, something whole. After breakfast, with minimal prompting, the kids dashed to the home office. Alan followed with his mug of still hot coffee. The game's festival grounds shimmered across their screens, the lanterns glowing in the early digital dawn as NPCs set up stalls. The stress test was still days away, but the scripts needed polishing. Rick bounced in his chair. "Dad, I want to show you the new quest idea." "All right," Alan said, cracking his knuckles dramatically. "Pitch it." Rick pulled up his notes with a flair that would have impressed a Broadway director. "Okay, so players find a clue about a missing merchant who was transporting rare pelts. They follow tracks into the woods, fight a small beast, maybe a wolf-fox hybrid, and then rescue the merchant from a treehouse where he got stuck after running away. Then the merchant gives them a lure they can use to distract monsters." Alan considered it. "I like the progression, but we need to keep the difficulty low for new players." Rick huffed. "Dad, kids can handle wolf foxes. Your sister is 8. "I'm not scared of wolf foxes," Polly said loyally. "You screamed when a butterfly landed on your shoe," Alan reminded her. "It was a big butterfly," she insisted. Alan chuckled. "We'll see if we can scale it down. Maybe make the beast more goofy." Rick made a face. "Goofy is fine. Embarrassing is not." Polly interjected with the confidence of someone who had never doubted anything in her life. "Dad, I want a hat quest." "A hat quest? A quest where you have to collect materials to make a hat for the gardening contest," she clarified. "A sunflower hat. But it should be really big." Rick groaned. "Everything you want is big." "Big hats have big power," Polly said gravely. Alan opened the development console, already sketching out potential dialogue lines for an NPC milliner. "Okay, giant hats. Got it." They played together for a while, testing interactions, glitch-checking animations, and creating new NPC lines. Alan loved watching how his kids shaped the world. It felt like the three of them were weaving something together, stitch by stitch. "Dad!" Rick suddenly pointed at his screen. "Someone's at the festival grounds." Alan leaned over. "Is it one of Grandma's guild members?" "No. Someone named Maya of the Meadows. Alan blinked. She came back. Polly lit up. Maya. She wrote me a poem yesterday. She said my sunflower cape sparkled like a morning rhyme. That's surprisingly poetic for a gardening game, Alan said. They watched through Rick's screen as Maya's avatar strolled into the festival plaza, pausing to inspect the flower booths. She was wearing a simple green tunic and a crown of lavender sprigs, one of the basic crafting recipes. Should we go say hi? Polly asked eagerly. Of course, Alan said. They guided their characters across the plaza. Maya's avatar perked up as they approached. A message appeared in the chat. Maya of the Meadows? Good morning. I'm not too early, am I? Polly Sunflower. Hi Maya. Look at my cape. Polly's character spun in a dramatic circle, sunflower cape flaring. Maya of the Meadows. That is the most magnificent cape ever woven. I may faint. Polly giggled so loudly that it startled Alan's coffee. Rick typed, Rick the Brave. We're testing quests. Want to help fight things? Maya's avatar looked between them, then typed back, Maya of the Meadows. I suppose I can contribute to the cause of whatever this is. But fair warning, if the goose returns, I'm gone. Rick nearly fell out of his chair laughing. Alan typed a greeting through his in-game admin character. Valleystead admin. Welcome back, Maya. Care for a walk through the new festival features? Maya of the Meadows. Admin. The mysterious overseer. Yes, lead the way. Rick whispered dramatically. Dad. She thinks you're mysterious. Alan cleared his throat. Don't start. They toured the grounds together, with Maya offering gentle observations and occasionally stopping to admire small details Alan had assumed no one would notice, like the way the lanterns flickered slightly in the wind or the way flower crowns changed color based on the herbs used. Then they reached the coop. A giant goose waddled out. Maya screamed in the chat. Maya of the Meadows. Nope, nope, nope. Rick dissolved into hysterics. Polly shrieked with laughter. Alan couldn't stop smiling. He typed quickly, Valleystead admin. Don't run. He senses fear. Maya's avatar fled at full sprint. Maya of the Meadows. There is no dignity in this world. Rick wiped tears from his eyes. Dad. She's the best tester ever. Polly nodded. She has main character energy. Alan felt a warm, inexplicable flutter in his chest. Maya had brought something into the game. Something light, humorous, and genuinely joyful. Watching her play reminded him of why he built this world in the first place. After regrouping near the fountain, they tested a few festival minigames. Maya attempted the flower arranging contest, placing roses and daisies into patterns that were less competitive art and more interpretive chaos. Polly applauded loudly. You should join the Matriarchs. Maya typed, Maya of the Meadows. Your grandmother already tried to recruit me. There was a quiz. It involved tea preferences and knowledge of 1980s sitcoms. Rick fell over laughing again. Alan rubbed his forehead. That sounds like Mom. Eventually, Maya waved goodbye and logged out, leaving the three Reynolds in a satisfied little glow. Rick swiveled in his chair. Dad. Yeah. I think she should help us with quests. She's funny. Polly nodded. She makes good poems. Alan hesitated, feeling something warm and uncertain settle into his chest. Well, we'll see. The kids didn't notice his hesitation. They were already planning new ideas, bigger hats, sillier beasts, a musical minigame that involved dancing vegetables. But Alan's thoughts lingered quietly on Maya. Her laughter, her clever chat comments, her curiosity. She wasn't just another tester. She was something. He didn't have a name for it yet, but he would. Chapter 4 Bugs, Beasts, and Misunderstandings. By Monday evening, Alan had convinced himself that the public stress test would be manageable. Sure, the town post had been shared more widely than intended. Sure, the Matriarchs were preparing as though they were about to host a royal coronation. Sure, Rick had suggested 17 new monsters in the last 24 hours. But Alan believed almost that things were under control. That belief lasted until 6:42 p.m. That was the exact moment when his inbox began to fill with frantic messages from Matriarch Guild members. Subject: The potatoes are floating. Subject: Alan dear, is the sky supposed to flicker? Subject: Help, lavender explosion. He blinked. Oh no. No, no, no. Rick and Polly leaned over his shoulders like vultures sensing drama. What happened? Rick asked. Alan clicked into the server log. Something's wrong with the crafting system. He opened the game and the world loaded with a soft chime. Then the festival grounds came into view. Then he saw the carnage. Gardening booths were levitating. Pies hovered ominously in perfect formation. A potato cart rotated slowly in the air like an unbothered celestial body. The sky flickered purple every few seconds, and several matriarch characters stood nearby waving their arms in wide, dramatic motions. And at the center of it all was Maya of the Meadows. Her avatar was frozen in the crafting animation, hands raised, eyes blank, while flower petals spun around her in an infinite loop. Every time the animation reset, the server produced more petals. The ground was now knee-deep in them. Rick gasped. She broke the festival. Polly clapped like she just witnessed an award-winning magic show. Maya is amazing. Alan groaned and massaged his forehead. No. The new hat crafting script must have collided with the festival crafting module. She's stuck in a loop. He typed quickly, Valleystead admin. Maya, can you move? Her avatar turned. Slowly, painfully, like a puppet resisting invisible strings. Maya of the Meadows. I don't know what I did, but I think I achieved godhood. Polly burst out laughing. Rick nearly fell out of his chair. Alan typed, Valleystead admin. You triggered a bug. I'm going to unstick you. Maya of the Meadows. Please do. The matriarchs are circling me and saying things like, the crafting spirit has chosen her. At that, Alan wheezed. Oh no. Oh no. He teleported Maya's avatar out of the glitch zone and reset the scripts. Slowly, thankfully, the levitating booths returned to the ground. The potatoes descended. The pies settled. The lavender explosion stopped. Linda's character, Lady Linda, marched up to Maya's newly freed avatar. Lady Linda, dear, you handled that with grace. Would you consider joining our guild? Maya of the Meadows. You mean the guild that panicked and ran in circles yelling, the sky is falling? Absolutely. Rick snorted. She's perfect. Polly nodded. Grandma loves her. Alan felt a smile tug at him despite the chaos. All right, crisis over. But it wasn't, because the matriarchs were now insisting on holding a formal initiation trial for Maya. Something involving herbs, riddles, and tea steeping methods. While Alan fixed the last of the crafting scripts, he noticed a message pop up. Privately this time. Maya of the Meadows. Hey, sorry for whatever that was. I was just trying to craft a hat. Next thing I knew, I was ascending to a higher plane. Alan chuckled and typed back. Valleystead admin. Not your fault. I forgot the hat quest interacts with festival booths. You just happened to trigger it in the funniest possible way. Maya of the Meadows. I accept no responsibility and claim all glory. He laughed, out loud. A sound that felt good after a long day. Valleystead admin, deal. Let me know if the matriarchs try to sacrifice you to appease the gardening spirits. Maya of the Meadows. If they do, I'll haunt your server. He grinned. It was harmless banter. Light pleasant. Something he didn't let himself enjoy often. But then, as he typed a response, he hesitated. Not because he didn't want to talk to her, he absolutely did, but because he realized his heart felt warm, brighter. He pushed the thought away. It was just a game tester. Just a friend, maybe. He minimized the chat window and stood. All right, kids, he said. Screens off. Bedtime routine. Rick groaned. Polly flopped onto the floor like a melodramatic starfish. But eventually, miraculously, they complied. Later that night, once the house was quiet and the server was stable again, Alan sat back down at his desk. The festival grounds were peaceful now. Lanterns glowed softly. NPC musicians played gentle tunes. And in the corner of the square, Maya's avatar stood next to a flower stall, waving at players as they passed. He didn't know she was online. She didn't know he was watching. But somehow, knowing she was there gave the digital world a little more warmth. A little more magic. He logged off before he could overthink it. Across town, Maya closed her own laptop, smiling at the memory of the chaos. She didn't know why this little game meant so much to her already. But she knew this. It made her laugh. It made her feel included. And the mysterious admin with the dry sense of humor? Well, he was interesting. For now, that was enough. Chapter 5. A librarian walks into a guild hall. The matriarchs did not take new membership lightly. That was the first thing Maya learned when she logged in Tuesday evening, still wearing her work cardigan and nursing a cup of chamomile tea. She'd had a long day rearranging displays in the children's section and convincing 3 different parents that, no, the library did not carry the Screaming Unicorn series, because such a series did not exist. She was tired, but the moment Valleystead's bright little valley flickered onto her screen, something inside her loosened. Peace. She could use that. Except the moment she spawned into the town square, she found a large crowd of gardening apron-wearing players waiting for her. Lady Linda. She's here. Someone start the ritual music. Matriarch Deborah. I brought my ceremonial watering can. Matriarch Joyce. Begin phase 1. Maya's avatar blinked. Maya of the Meadows. What is happening? From behind her, a goose honked menacingly. Maya of the Meadows. No. Nope. Not part of any ritual. She sprinted several feet before Lady Linda stepped in front of her. Hands raised. Lady Linda. Don't fear, dear. Today is your guild evaluation day. Maya froze. Oh no, she said aloud in her apartment. They're serious. Across town, Alan was quietly updating quest parameters when a flashing alert caught his eye. Guild event triggered. Matriarch trial. Custom. His stomach dropped. Oh no. Oh no no no. He clicked in. On the screen, the matriarchs had arranged themselves in a semicircle around Maya like a council of benevolent fairy godmothers who had watched one too many soap operas. He activated his admin character and teleported nearby discreetly, staying at the edge of the square where he could observe. Polly noticed him immediately. Her character, Polly Sunflower, jumped and waved. Polly Sunflower. Hi, Dad. I mean, admin. Maya turned slowly toward the mysterious hooded figure, Alan. and he saw her avatar's tiny wave. Maya of the Meadows. Hello again, overseer of chaos. He coughed involuntarily. Rick, who had wandered in from the living room couch with half a granola bar, cackled. Dad, she named you. I heard, Alan muttered. The matriarchs cleared their metaphorical throats. Lady Linda. Maya, dear, today you will undergo a 3-part test to prove you are worthy of joining our guild. Matriarch Joyce, knowledge of herbs. Matriarch Deborah, wisdom of tea. Lady Linda, an endurance of mild embarrassment. Maya typed. Maya of the Meadows, can I opt out? Lady Linda, no. Alan pinched the bridge of his nose. Mom, what are you doing? He muttered aloud, even though she obviously couldn't hear him outside of game chat. The first test began. A circle of herb plants spawned around Maya. Lavender, mint, rosemary. A strange blue flower Rick had coated once called Thunderblossom. Lady Linda, identify the most soothing herb. Maya walked her avatar around thoughtfully. Then, Maya of the Meadows, mint, obviously, calms the nerves and tastes good in cookies. Matriarch Joyce, correct. Matriarch Deborah, and cookies are important. Second test, tea. A table materialized with 3 teapots. Lady Linda, only one is steeped properly. Choose wisely. Maya approached the first teapot, inspected it. Maya of the Meadows, this one smells like it's been boiled into oblivion. A crime. Rick gasped. She gets it. The second teapot steamed gently. Maya of the Meadows, this is the one. Matriarch Deborah, correct again. Matriarch Joyce, she is wise. Third test, embarrassment. A stage appeared. A literal stage. Oh no, Alan whispered. Polly clapped. Lady Linda, recite a poem in honor of gardens everywhere. Maya's avatar stood on the stage. Slowly, resignedly, she typed. Maya of the Meadows, ahem. Roses are red, lavender is blue, your goose tried to bite me, and I'm still not over it. Silence. Then the guild exploded in applause. Matriarch Joyce, she has the spirit. Matriarch Deborah, welcome to the matriarchs. Lady Linda, you may now choose your ceremonial apron color. Maya typed. Maya of the Meadows, do you have moss green? Lady Linda, stylish. Approved. Rick clapped. Polly squealed. Alan felt his face warm for reasons he refused to acknowledge. Linda then approached his admin avatar. Lady Linda, admin dear, she passed. Add her officially. Alan swallowed a sigh and typed. Valleystead admin. Done. Welcome to the matriarchs, Maya. Maya's avatar turned toward him. Maya of the Meadows, thank you for your supervision and your witnessing of my shame. He typed before he could think. Valleystead admin. You handled it better than most. Maya of the Meadows. I'll take that as a compliment from the overseer of chaos. He coughed again. This time so hard Rick patted his back. Polly leaned closer to the screen. Dad, Maya is nice. You should talk to her more. Alan cleared his throat. Let's not meddle. Rick snorted. We're kids. Meddling is our job. Alan decided that was his cue to log out. Across town, Maya removed her glasses and leaned back in her chair, laughing softly. Somehow the absurd trial felt lovely, like being welcomed into a family she didn't know she needed. She closed the game, tea still warm. Well, she murmured, this world is dangerous, but in a fun way. Chapter 6, Offline Meet Cute, technically an accident. Saturday mornings at the Reynolds house always began with the children waking up before Alan was emotionally prepared to be a functioning adult. Today was no exception. Rick burst into the room first, wielding a notebook filled with monster ideas. Dad, we need to talk about the quest scaling for the jaguar bear. I think its climbing skill should be proportional to its aggression. Polly followed, hugging a plush rabbit. Daddy, Grandma says the matriarchs are hosting a tea contest next week. I need a hat. Alan rubbed the sleep from his eyes. Why do we need hats for tea? Presentation, Polly said, as though explaining gravity. Alan pulled himself upright. Okay. Kid stuff first, server stuff after. Breakfast soon. He shuffled to the kitchen, made pancakes that may or may not have been structurally sound, and wrangled the morning chaos into something resembling order. Halfway through washing the dishes, he remembered the library event. He'd promised the kids he'd take them today. Something about a winter-themed reading activity with crafts. He didn't remember agreeing, but they both glowed with excitement when they mentioned it, which meant he absolutely agreed. All right, finish up, he called. We're heading out in 10. Both kids sprinted toward the door with the speed of caffeinated squirrels. The local library was warm, quiet, and smelled faintly of old paper, wooden shelves, and something citrusy Alan couldn't quite identify. Soft music played over the speakers as children and parents drifted between craft tables. Polly made a beeline for the glitter station, while Rick gravitated toward informational posters describing local wildlife, probably looking for monster inspiration. Alan followed at a slower pace, his eyes scanning the room, and froze. Maya was standing behind the event table, arranging paper snowflakes in neat, artistic lines. Her hair was pulled into a loose bun, a pencil tucked behind her ear. She wore a soft green sweater that made her look like she'd stepped straight out of an illustrated storybook. But that wasn't what startled him. What startled him was the moment their eyes met, and she recognized him first. She blinked, then squinted slightly. Wait! Alan opened his mouth, then immediately wished for the ability to flee into a nearby bookshelf. Maya stepped closer, tilting her head. Alan? His brain stalled. Yes. Alan Reynolds? Yes. Her eyes widened with delighted realization. You're the admin. Rick, halfway through reading a fact sheet about owls, shouted, Dad's the overseer of chaos. Alan covered his face with one hand. Bud, please. No. Maya burst into laughter, bright and genuine, the same tone she used in chat whenever the goose appeared. Oh my gosh, she said, trying to compose herself. This is perfect. Is it? Alan asked weakly. It is, she insisted. I thought your in-game persona was exaggerated for mysterious effect. But no, it's actually you. Alan wasn't sure whether that was a compliment. Polly appeared beside him, glitter in her hair. Hi Maya. Maya smiled warmly. Hi sweetheart. You look like my sunflower cape. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, Maya replied, kneeling slightly to Polly's height. Polly nodded solemnly. Do you want to help me and my daddy pick out books later? Alan blinked. Polly, of course I do, Maya said without hesitation. Rick trotted forward, gripping his notebook. Maya, I need your opinion on beast design. It's for game balance. Ah, she said, adjusting her glasses. A matter of great importance. Within seconds, both children had adopted Maya as if she'd always been part of their world. Alan watched, stunned but oddly touched, as Maya knelt between them while Rick enthusiastically explained Jaguar bear algorithms. He found himself lingering on the softness of her voice, the ease with which she listened, the patient way she encouraged their ideas. After a while, the craft portion of the event began, and Maya slid behind the table again to hand out paper snowflake templates. You know, she said quietly as Alan approached, I wasn't sure if you were real. He raised a brow. What does that mean? She laughed. Sometimes the people behind games stay behind their screens. I didn't expect to run into you in the middle of the children's section. Believe me, he said. I didn't expect it either. She handed him a pair of scissors and a sheet of pre-folded paper. Make a snowflake. I don't know how. You code realistic fabric physics into virtual hats, but you can't fold paper? Those are not equivalent skills, he defended, though he took the paper. Maya leaned in. Okay, fold it like this. Their fingers brushed. She froze. He froze. Sorry, she murmured. Don't be, he said quietly. A long, delicate moment lingered, one that felt suspiciously like something beginning. Then Rick returned to drag Alan toward the reading circle. Dad, it's about wolves. I need this for research. And Maya returned to help a toddler glue pom-poms to something that definitely wasn't supposed to have pom-poms. Before they left, Polly insisted on hugging her. Maya knelt and returned the hug with gentle warmth. Rick waved. Bye, Maya. Don't let the goose get you. She laughed. Never again, brave warrior. Alan lingered. Thanks for, being so kind with them. Her eyes softened. They're incredible, Alan. He swallowed. Yeah, they really are. Pause. Then she said, Will I see you online tonight? He wasn't sure if she meant it casually or with something more behind the words, but he heard the hope in it, quiet, genuine. Yeah, he said. Definitely. She smiled, small but bright. Good. I'll bring my new ceremonial apron. He chuckled. I look forward to it. As Alan shepherded his kids out the door, he felt something unfamiliar, lightness. Not the usual parental exhaustion or work stress. Something gentler, possibility. And across the library, Maya watched him go, smiling to herself. The offline world, it seemed, was getting interesting. Chapter 7, Patch Notes and Personal Notes. Monday evenings were usually reserved for Alan's quiet hours. The sacred window of time after the kids' showers, homework, and bedtime routines when he could sit at his computer and tinker with code without interruption. But tonight, his heart wasn't in the technical work. It was in a library, replaying a smile. He shook himself and opened the development console. Focus, he muttered. Server updates first. Emotional confusion later. The stress test was only days away, and the game needed adjustments. Rick had overtuned the Jaguar bear again, which was typical. Polly had insisted on a sunflower pet that followed players around cheering them on, which the Matriarchs loved but the server hated. And a memory leak in the crafting subsystem still caused intermittent lag. He typed for a while, bug fixes, minor rebalance, patch notes. Then a message window popped open. Maya of the Meadows. Good evening, mysterious admin. I come bearing questions, comments, and light mischief. Alan's heart did a ridiculous little skip. He typed back, Valleystead admin. You always bring mischief. Questions 2. Maya of the Meadows. 1 question. Why is the goose following me? He choked on air. He quickly tabbed into the game world. Sure enough, Maya's avatar was standing in the meadow, with the goose positioned 3 feet behind her, staring like a feathery stalker. Alan typed, Valleystead admin. Because you ran from it. You created a vendetta. Maya of the Meadows. So this is my life now. Eternally hunted by an angry poultry deity. Alan grinned. Valleystead admin. I can adjust its AI. Maya of the Meadows. No, leave it. It builds character. He stared at that line longer than necessary. Something about it, the humor, the vulnerability beneath it, made warmth unfurl in his chest. Before he could overthink, Rick poked his head into the office. Dad? He whispered loudly. Are you talking to Maya? Alan fumbled. No. I'm working. Rick crossed his arms. You're smiling at your screen. I always smile at my screen. No, you don't. Polly peeked in from behind him, toothbrush in hand. Tell her I made a new hat. I'm not kids' bedtime. Polly darted to Alan's keyboard before he could stop her. She typed, Polly Sunflower. Hi Maya, I made a hat, it has glitter, and Dad said no, but Grandma said yes okay good night. Alan lunged for the keyboard. Polly. She giggled and ran. Maya typed back a moment later. Maya of the Meadows. This is the most important patch note I've ever received. Tell Polly I look forward to her glitter hat reveal. Alan rubbed his face. His children were going to unionize against him. Valleystead admin. Sorry about that. They like you. Her reply was immediate. Maya of the Meadows. I like them too. They're bright and kind, and they seem really proud of you. His breath caught. He didn't expect those words. He wasn't prepared for them either. He stared at the chat box, trying to think of something neutral, something safe. But what came out wasn't neutral. Valleystead admin. I'm proud of them. They're my whole world. A beat passed. Maya of the Meadows. It shows. You built them a world of their own. He didn't know what to type, so he didn't. Instead, he invited her to test the new event instance. She accepted. They met in-game at the edge of the festival grounds, lanterns glowing overhead. An evening breeze rustled the pixelated trees. Maya's avatar appeared in her new moss green ceremonial apron. Alan's admin avatar stepped beside her, cloak swaying as if the code itself breathed. Ready? He asked through text. Maya of the Meadows. Lead the way, oh enigmatic code sorcerer. He guided her through new festival games, event triggers, and NPC dialogue changes. She laughed at the silly lines, praised small artistic flourishes he thought no one noticed, and, when a glitch made a musician NPC spin in place, she typed, Maya of the Meadows. Same, honestly. He laughed until his eyes watered. At one point, she asked, Maya of the Meadows, do you ever get tired of building, fixing, keeping everything running? He hesitated, then typed, Valleystead admin. Not when they're the ones I'm building for. She didn't respond right away. When she finally did, her tone was gentle. Maya of the Meadows, you're a good dad, Alan. His hands stilled on the keyboard. He hadn't expected to feel seen. He quickly changed the subject. They spent another hour testing mechanics and tweaking festival timings. The easy banter between them made the time glide by effortlessly. Eventually, Maya typed, Maya of the Meadows, I should sleep. Library opens early. Story time with toddlers. Pray for me. Valleystead admin. Good luck. May the goose spare you. Maya of the Meadows. Never. She logged out. Alan sat in the dim glow of his office for several long seconds afterward. Then he whispered to himself, What are you doing, man? Because he knew, deep down, that this wasn't just friendship. Something was growing. Quietly, warmly, gently, and he wasn't sure he wanted to stop it. Chapter 8. The stress test that stressed everyone. The morning of the stress test arrived with the energy of a holiday. A storm, and a county fair all rolled into one. Alan was up at dawn, double-checking server load limits, memory allocation, and the contingency scripts he'd written in case something catastrophic happened, like the goose breeding out of control or the crafting subsystem deciding to ascend to sentience again. The kids hovered around him in the kitchen while he made coffee. Dad, Rick said, chewing toast with intensity, if the server crashes, can we blame the Matriarchs? No, Alan said firmly. They're going to overthrow the whole valley, Rick continued. It will be grandma-aged anarchy. Polly twirled in her pajamas. I made a welcome sign for new players. Alan smiled. That's great, sweetheart. It says, Welcome to Valleystead. Please don't run from the goose. Rick high-fived her. Excellent advice. After breakfast, Alan retreated to the office with a sense of calm determination. It lasted 6 minutes, because at 8:30 the first wave of players logged in. At 8:31 the second wave logged in. At 8:32, the server's population counter passed his intended maximum. By 8:40 the town square was packed. Characters of all shapes and colors crowded the fountain, the booths, the path to the gardens. Children's usernames filled the chat with enthusiastic chaos. And the matriarchs had taken command. Lady Linda, welcome new friends. Form lines. Use your inside voices. Matriarch Deborah, step right up for cookies. No shoving. Matriarch Joyce, I saw that. Benny, bring back the watering can. Alan pinched his nose. This is happening. This is really happening. Rick giggled. Dad, you should log in as the admin. They're asking for you. Polly tugged his sleeve. Maya's online. His heart did an embarrassing skip. He loaded into his admin character. And there she was, Maya of the Meadows, standing amid the chaos in her moss-green ceremonial apron, trying to direct new players toward the crafting booths. Her avatar was waving dramatically. Maya of the Meadows. No, kids, don't feed the goose. Oh no, it's eating the decorations. It has no remorse. Alan typed, Valleystead admin. Morning, everyone. Festival events begin soon. Please proceed calmly. Maya of the Meadows. Oh good. The voice of reason is here. He smirked at the screen. Valleystead admin. You surviving? Maya of the Meadows. Define surviving. I've been pecked twice. Rick snorted behind him. The first festival activity launched. A community chorus event. Players gathered with instruments or simply clapped along. The music system, which Alan had coded at 3 in the morning while eating tired pretzels, somehow held together. Maya grabbed a lute and played surprisingly on beat. Polly typed from her account. Polly Sunflower. Maya, you sound like a fairy singer. Maya of the Meadows. Thank you, small sunflower. I am trying my best. Everything ran smoothly for 3 minutes. Then the server hit a concurrency spike. Alan's monitor flooded with warnings. High CPU usage. NPC pathing overload. Unexpected item duplication spikes. Goose roaming radius expanded beyond safe distance. Oh no, he whispered. On screen, the goose strutted through the festival stage, interrupting a group of well-meaning children attempting to play flutes. Players screamed in chat. Kid player 23. The goose is coming, send help Matriarch Deborah. Protect the booth. Protect the pies. Maya of the Meadows. I knew this day would come. Alan forced himself to breathe and opened the emergency patch panel. He throttled the goose's movement speed and lowered its aggression value. It took 30 seconds. 30 seconds of screaming. But then the goose calmed. It waddled away peacefully. The entire valley cheered. Rick fist pumped. Dad, you saved them. Polly hugged him. You're the hero. Alan exhaled, almost dizzy with relief. The rest of the festival unfolded in chaotic but functional waves. Musical contests, crafting challenges, a cooperative cooking event where half the participants burned simulated soup. Maya was everywhere, guiding kids, cheering players, laughing alongside the matriarchs, composing short poems to encourage competitors. At one point, Alan noticed her avatar lingering near his. She typed, Maya of the Meadows. Hey, are you doing okay? You look stressed. Valleystead admin. This is the single most terrifying success of my life. Maya of the Meadows. It's wonderful. You built something people love. He hesitated, then typed, Valleystead admin. I didn't do it alone. You helped. Pause. Her reply came slowly. Maya of the Meadows. I'm glad I could be part of it. The way she wrote those words, gentle, sincere, settled into him. Later, long after the festival ended and the server population dipped back to sanity, Alan found Maya sitting by the in-game river, her avatar casting flower petals into the water. He teleported nearby, not directly next to her, but close enough for conversation. Valleystead admin. You okay? Her avatar turned. Maya of the Meadows, just unwinding. Today was a lot. Valleystead admin. For everyone. A soft pause. Maya of the Meadows. I'm really glad I joined this world. It's been good for me. He swallowed. Then typed, Valleystead admin. It's been good for me too. She didn't reply right away, but when she did, it wasn't through text. Her avatar stepped beside his. A simple gesture, but it felt like the opening of a door. He sat there long after she logged off, listening to the river's soft looping sound and feeling, maybe for the first time in years, hope. Chapter 9, the kids who knew before the adults did. Sunday mornings in the Reynolds household were slower than Saturdays. There was no school looming, no errands demanding attention. Just sunlight through kitchen windows, the soft hum of the refrigerator, and the gentle possibility of a lazy day. Except Rick was not lazy by nature. He thundered into the kitchen, notebook in hand, already mid-sentence. Dad, I have an idea for a new escort quest where... Good morning, Alan said pointedly. Rick blinked. Good morning. Anyway, before he could launch back into his pitch, Polly wandered in wearing mismatched socks and clutching a plush rabbit twice her size. She climbed onto a chair, yawned dramatically, and then announced, I want Maya to come over. Alan froze at the coffee machine. Rick nodded with the certainty of someone making an official proclamation. Yeah, Dad, you should invite Maya. Why would I do that? Alan asked, suddenly aware that he was being cornered. Because you like her, Rick replied without hesitation. Alan choked on air. I what? Polly nodded sagely. You smile at your phone when she messages you. I smile at lots of things. No, you don't, Rick said. You smile when we make pancakes shaped like monsters. And when Maya types something funny. Polly leaned in, eyes bright. She's nice. And she listens. And she made a poem for my cape. That poem was funny, Rick agreed. You should ask her to come over for cookies. We don't have cookies, Alan said, weakly clinging to logistics. We can make some, Polly countered. Grandma taught me. Alan ran a hand over his face. Guys, Maya is a friend. Rick raised an eyebrow. A friend you dress nice for before logging on. Alan stared. Betrayal. I do not do that. Yes you do, Polly said. You combed your hair last night. It was sticking up. You used gel, Rick added solemnly. The good gel. Alan set his coffee down and pointed at both of them. Okay, enough. No more analyzing your father. We're not analyzing, Rick said. We're observing. Same thing. Polly hopped off her chair, marched over, and tugged his sleeve. Daddy, you're allowed to like someone. Her voice was soft, earnest. Something in Alan's chest tightened. I know, sweetheart, he said quietly. I don't want to get your hopes up. Rick shrugged. Our hopes are fine. You're the one who looks terrified. Alan rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, I know. He didn't expect Maya to message him that afternoon, but she did. Maya of the Meadows, your mother informed the Matriarchs that today is post-festival recovery day. They're meditating by the fountain. I think they're chanting. Alan laughed. Valleystead admin. Yeah, that tracks. Pause. Then a second message arrived. Maya of the Meadows. How are you? Survived the stress test? He stared at the screen, feeling warmth creep in beneath the nervousness. The kids' voices echoed in his head. You like her. Invite her over. You combed your hair. Before he could talk himself out of it, he typed. Valleystead admin. Doing better today. The kids were actually asking about you. They wanted to invite you over sometime. He hit send. Immediately regretted it. Then held his breath. Her reply came a moment later. Maya of the Meadows. They did? That's really sweet. Another message followed. Maya of the Meadows. And I'd like that. Whenever you're comfortable. Alan's heart thudded in an unhelpfully loud way. Before he could type a response, Polly appeared at the doorway like a tiny glitter-covered spy. Well? She asked. Alan swallowed. She said yes. Polly squealed, danced in a circle, and bolted down the hall to tell Rick. Rick ran back and slapped the doorframe triumphantly. Called it. Alan sank into his chair, overwhelmed by equal parts dread and happiness. This was happening. He typed, Valleystead admin. How about next weekend? I'll make sure the house is somewhat presentable. Her answer came with a laughing emoji. Maya of the Meadows. Next weekend works. And don't worry, I work with toddlers. Nothing scares me. Alan laughed, loudly enough that Rick peeked in again. You okay, Dad? Yeah, Alan said. Yeah, buddy. I think so. Later that evening, Alan cooked dinner while the kids built a stuffed animal fortress in the living room. He caught himself glancing toward his phone more than once, half hoping for another message. He didn't get one, but he did get something else. As the kids brushed their teeth, Polly stood on her step stool, toothbrush in mouth, and said through foam, Maya would be a good person. Alan smiled. She is a good person. I agree. Rick poked his head in. We're not saying you have to marry her. Just, date her. Alan nearly dropped a towel. Okay. Bedtime. Laughing, they scattered, and he tucked them in one by one. When the house was finally still, he sat on the sofa, staring at the darkened screen of his phone. He felt a cautious, unfamiliar hope. The kids weren't wrong. He did like Maya. And for the first time in 4 years, he wasn't scared of the idea. He was curious. He was interested. He was ready, almost. He didn't know yet. But next weekend, when Maya walked into his home, he suspected he'd find out. Chapter 10, a date. Eventually, Alan had faced server crashes, goose uprisings, rogue matriarch ceremonies, and a crafting subsystem that once tried to duplicate itself into oblivion. None of that compared to the terror of cleaning his house for a date. Because yes, he had said it out loud to himself that morning. A date. A real one. With a real person. A very real, very charming librarian who somehow enjoyed talking to him. He tried not to spiral as he dusted the bookshelves, vacuumed the living room, swept the kitchen, and wondered whether a grown man needed this many novelty mugs. Rick stood watching from the doorway with his arms crossed like a foreman inspecting labor. You missed a spot, he said, pointing at the corner. I will pay you $20 to stop pointing out spots. Rick considered this. 30. Get out. Polly wandered through the kitchen with a clipboard. I made a checklist. Number 1. Don't be weird. That's excellent advice, Alan said. Number 2. Polly continued. Don't talk too much about code. Rick nodded. Yes. Don't start explaining server stress tests. People don't want that on dates. Alan frowned. I thought you two were on my team. We are, Polly said sweetly. That's why we're training you. He opened the fridge to straighten items that definitely didn't need straightening. This is supposed to be low pressure. Just coffee. Just talking. That is exactly how all disasters begin, Rick replied. Alan attempted to breathe normally. He met Maya at a local cafe that afternoon. It was one of those cozy places with vintage lamps, mismatched chairs, and an espresso machine loud enough to qualify as a minor deity of steam. Maya stood near the entrance, tucking her hair behind her ear. When she saw him, she smiled. The warm, steady kind that made Alan's thoughts briefly evaporate. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he repeated, forgetting every word he had ever learned. "You okay?" she asked, amused. "No," he said honestly. "Yes, mostly." She laughed, light and bright. "Same." They ordered drinks, her a cinnamon latte, him a plain black coffee because choosing anything more complicated felt beyond his emotional bandwidth. As they sat down, the pastries in the display case behind them erupted in chaos. Someone dropped a tray. The espresso machine hissed like a dragon, and a blender screeched to life in the background. Maya winced. "I swear this place wasn't this noisy yesterday." "I'm fine," Alan said. The blender roared at maximum volume. He raised his voice. "Totally fine." Maya leaned forward. "This might not be the ideal atmosphere for heartfelt conversation. Unless we're bonding over shared hearing loss," Alan offered. She laughed again, covering her face. "Okay, maybe we should move?" They relocated to a small patio table outside. It was quieter there. Just the sound of cars passing and occasional laughter from a group of college students down the sidewalk. "This is better," she said. "It is," he agreed. Then, because he was painfully aware of the nerves in his voice, he added, "Sorry if I seem awkward." "I know awkward," she said, taking a sip of her latte. "This is not awkward. It feels awkward to me. It's just new," she said. "New things feel that way." He breathed in once, slowly, letting her calm certainty anchor him. They talked gently at first, then easily. About books, about the chaotic brilliance of children, about the funny ways people reveal themselves under stress. Maya reenacted her dramatic escape from the goose, complete with flapping arms. Alan nearly choked laughing. He told her about coding, about the frustration of debugging, about the strange joy of building something that mattered. At one point, she said softly, "Your kids really adore you." He blinked, trying to hide the flush he felt rising. "I adore them too. It shows," she said gently. "In everything you do. Even the game feels like a love letter to them." He cleared his throat. That's fair." Maya studied him quietly for a moment. "You're kinder than you think." A beat. Then Alan said, "I'm glad you joined the world." She smiled, eyes bright. "I'm glad I met you." He opened his mouth, and then someone shouted from the street. "Alan." Alan stiffened. Turning, he saw Marcy, his ex-wife, jogging toward them carrying a reusable grocery bag. She waved with the enthusiasm of someone who had no idea she was interrupting a fragile, emotionally delicate moment. "Oh boy," Alan whispered. Maya sat up straighter. "Oh." Marcy skidded to a stop. "Hi. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. Wait. Is this a date?" Alan made a sound that should not exist in nature. Maya bit her lip to stop from laughing. "Oh my gosh, it is," Marcy said, delighted. "I knew it. The kids said something this morning." "The kids, what?" Marcy sighed fondly. "They told me Dad has a crush. Rick even predicted you'd wear your good shirt." Alan stared down at his shirt. He should have known. Maya, red-faced but smiling, said, "It's nice to meet you." "Oh, you too." Marcy beamed. "Alan's great. Kind of a mess, but in a lovable way." "Thank you," Alan muttered. "Anyway, I'll get out of your hair," Marcy said, stepping back. "Good luck, you two. Don't do that thing where you assume the other person isn't interested." And just like that, she was gone. Silence settled over the table. Then Maya snorted. "I like her." "Good," Alan said weakly. "Because she's unstoppable." "Your kids told her you had a crush?" Alan groaned and covered his face with both hands. "They have absolutely no boundaries." She laughed softly. "I think it's sweet." He peeked between his fingers. "It's mortifying." "It's supportive," she corrected gently. "They want you to be happy." Something tightened in Alan's chest. Something warm and real. "Do you want this?" he asked quietly. "Us talking? Getting to know each other? Spending time?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said softly. "I do." He exhaled slowly, like stepping into warm water. "I do too," he said. Their drinks grew cold. Their conversation didn't. Eventually, they walked back to the parking lot side by side, hands brushing once, twice, before Maya took a breath and let her fingers slide into his. He squeezed gently. A beginning. Not perfect. Not smooth. But there's. Chapter 11, Final Beta. First kiss. The week after the coffee date that technically qualified as a date floated by with the surreal warmth of early spring. Alan found himself smiling at strange times. While debugging code, while making dinner, while folding laundry with absolutely no reason to be happy during laundry. The kids noticed, of course. "Rick, Dad, you're humming." Holly, "Dad, you're dancing with the spatula." Alan, "No, I'm not." Both children, "Yes, you are." It was mortifying. It was also good, because Maya was texting him more. Not constantly, not in a heavy way, just small, gentle messages that made his phone light up like a quiet spark. A photo of a funny library display, a poem that didn't quite rhyme but absolutely should have, screenshots of the goose misbehaving. By Friday evening, they had arranged to meet in-game for the final beta run before Alan sent his pitch packet to a studio. Alan logged in late, after the kids fell asleep. The valley shimmered under a pixelated twilight sky. Lanterns glowed in the plaza. Fireflies drifted lazily through the air. He hadn't programmed fireflies into daytime cycles. They only appeared at dusk. For atmosphere. For magic. Maya was already there. Her avatar stood near the fountain, wearing her new sunflower hat, a gift from Polly. One she wore proudly even though it sparkled like something forged in glitter-based chaos. Maya of the Meadows. Evening, admin. Or Alan. If we're not being mysterious tonight. Valleystead admin. Alan is fine. And you look bright. She did a small in-game spin. Maya of the Meadows. It's Polly's hat. I feel honored. Also possibly radioactive. He laughed. They met at the quest board for the new cooperative event he'd been working on. It was something simple but meaningful. 2 players working together to restore an abandoned cottage on the hillside. Repair the roof. Plant the garden. Fix the lanterns. Fight off a few mischievous woodland creatures. Nothing dangerous. Just building something together. He didn't question why he'd coded it that way. He didn't question why he wanted to share it with her first. They accepted the quest and walked side by side along the winding dirt path that cut through wildflowers. Virtual moonlight bathed the valley in cool purple hues. Maya of the Meadows, you built a night cycle. You never mentioned that. Valleystead admin. Not everything needs to be announced. Some things are meant to be discovered. Her avatar paused, facing his. Maya of the Meadows. That feels like a metaphor. For you. His fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Valleystead admin. Maybe. They reached the cottage. It was small, crooked, and charmingly broken. Together they repaired beams, replaced shingles, patched walls. When mischievous sprite creatures invaded, Maya chased them with a broom while typing battle cries like, Maya of the Meadows. Begone. Tiny chaos nuggets. Alan had to stop fixing a lantern because he was laughing too hard. Half an hour later, the cottage stood repaired, warm light spilling from its little windows. Flowers bloomed in the garden beds. Fireflies danced overhead. The quest completion banner popped up. Cottage restored. Well done. Maya stepped closer to his avatar. Maya of the Meadows. This is beautiful. You made something beautiful. Valleystead admin, we made it. Together. A long pause. The in-game breeze rustled the trees. Finally, she typed, Maya of the Meadows. Alan, can I ask something? Not as a matriarch. Not as a librarian. Just me? His heart thudded. Valleystead admin. Ask anything. Maya of the Meadows. Do you want this to be more? Silence. Not the uncomfortable kind. The kind that collects meaning. Alan took his hands off the keyboard. He sat back in his chair, staring at the screen, at the little pixelated cottage they'd built together. He thought about the divorce, about the years of rebuilding, about the kids, about the way Polly adored Maya, about how Rick trusted her enough to show her his monster notebook, about the way Maya looked at him during coffee, soft, hopeful, unguarded. He leaned forward and typed, Valleystead admin. Yes, I do. If you want that too. A few seconds. Then, Maya of the Meadows. I do. His breath left him in a slow, stunned exhale. Maya's avatar stepped even closer and held up a small crafted item. A flower. A simple glowing bloom. She dropped it at his avatar's feet. Maya of the Meadows. For you. My first in-game gift. You don't have to keep it, but I wanted to give you something. Alan picked it up. In the game. And in his heart. Then she typed, Maya of the Meadows. Can we meet again? Like a real meeting, not coffee this time. Something quieter. He smiled. Valleystead admin. I'd like that. Very much. Her avatar's head tilted, as though she were smiling too. In an impulsive move, one he didn't fully plan, Alan pressed a key combination he rarely used. His avatar knelt beside hers and gently placed the glowing flower in the garden. Maya of the Meadows. Are you Valleystead admin? Yes. It's the closest this world has to a kiss. Her reply was a single line. Maya of the Meadows. Then, I'm kissing you back. Her avatar stepped close. Their character models touched. And across town, Alan felt something unfold inside him. Quiet, warm, undeniable. The first kiss wasn't physical, but it was real. He logged off hours later, heart steady and full. Chapter 12 Family Patch 1.0 By the time the next weekend raw. Around, Alan had cleaned the house twice, reorganized the kitchen once, and panicked approximately 17 times. His children, meanwhile, had prepared as if a celebrity were coming for dinner. Polly decorated the living room with paper flowers. Rick made a welcome Maya, and O Geeson sign. Alan hid the sign behind the couch when they weren't looking. Why did you move my sign? Rick asked. I'm not banning geese, Alan said. That's discriminatory. Rick squinted. Dad, the goose is evil. It's code. It knows things. Polly tugged Alan's sleeve. Daddy, are you scared? He exhaled. Yeah, a little. That's okay, she said, patting his arm with all the wisdom of an 8-year-old sage. You're allowed to be scared of good things too. He hugged her. Maya arrived right on time, wearing a soft sweater, jeans, and a smile that somehow made the whole house feel lighter. She brought a tin of homemade lemon shortbread cookies. "For the kids," she said, then added with a grin. "And for you if you behave." Rick snatched the tin. "She brought cookies. She's allowed to stay forever." "Rick," Alan warned. "What? That's a compliment." Polly grabbed Maya's hand. "Come see my drawings." And just like that, Maya was swept into the rhythm of the household. She sat on the floor with Polly, admiring every glitter-heavy masterpiece. She listened intently as Rick explained what made a jaguar bear both a boss monster and a compelling ecological lesson. She laughed at their jokes, encouraged their ideas, and somehow balanced warmth and humor with practiced kindness. Alan watched her from the kitchen doorway, feeling something settle inside him. Something gentle, grateful, and unexpectedly hopeful. He wasn't the only one watching. Rick nudged him. "Dad." "Yeah. She's good," Rick whispered. "Like, really good." Alan swallowed, his voice soft. "Yeah, I know." Later, after the kids had dragged Maya through a tour of the house and demonstrated every toy they owned, Alan offered to make tea. Polly sat beside Maya on the couch, head resting on her shoulder. Rick leaned on the armrest, sketchbook in lap. The four of them looked natural. A little mismatched, a little chaotic, but natural. "Dad," Polly announced, "we should show Maya the goose plushie you hate." "I don't hate it," Alan protested. "It just stares at me." "It looks into your soul," Rick said dramatically. "It's a toy," Alan insisted. Maya laughed, the warm kind that softened sharp corners in his mind. "I would love to see the goose plushie." Polly scampered away and returned with a stuffed goose that did, in fact, look like it had witnessed many crimes. Maya held it gently. "He's charming. He's unholy," Alan said. Rick whispered, "He waits." They all dissolved into laughter. After dinner, simple pasta, salad, and cookies for dessert, the kids drifted off to play a board game at the kitchen table. Their happy chatter floated through the house. Alan and Maya found themselves in the quiet living room. He glanced at her. She met his eyes with a small smile. "So," she said gently, "this is your world." "My home," he corrected softly. "And you let me in." He hesitated. "Is that okay?" "More than okay," she said. "I like being here." He inhaled slowly, steadying himself. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I didn't let myself think about dating again. Not seriously. Not for a long time." Maya nodded, listening with full attention. "It wasn't that I was afraid of relationships. I was afraid of losing this." He gestured toward the kitchen, where the kids were arguing affectionately over game rules. Their stability, their happiness, their memories. Maya's expression softened. "Alan, you've built a beautiful life with them." "Trying to," he said quietly. "And I didn't want to let anything break that." She shifted closer, voice gentle. "Wanting to protect them doesn't mean you have to lock yourself away. They're the most important people in my world. And they'll stay that way," she said. "Being with someone doesn't take away from them. It adds." He swallowed. "You really believe that?" She held his gaze. "Yes, and your kids like me. They really like me." He huffed a breathy laugh. "They do. And I like them," she added softly. Something in Alan loosened, like a knot slowly untying. "Then I'd like to keep moving forward," he said, voice low. "With you." Her smile deepened, not dramatic, not exaggerated. Just warm, certain. "I'd like that too." He reached out, taking her hand slowly, checking her reaction. She squeezed his fingers. "Can I?" he asked, barely above a whisper. She nodded. Their kiss was soft, not rushed, not loud. A gentle meeting of warmth and new connection. A beginning layered over another beginning. When they parted, her forehead rested lightly against his. "That," she said breathlessly, "was very yes." He laughed. The kids crashed into the room at that moment. "Did you kiss?" Polly asked, eyes enormous. Alan sputtered. "Go play your game." Rick held up his notebook triumphantly. "Called it." Maya hid her face in her hands, laughing. Alan sighed, deeply, happily, completely defeated. Family Patch 1.0 was officially live, and, surprisingly, running smoothly. Chapter 13. A happier build for all. The final week of winter break drifted into spring with a gentle warmth that felt like a new chapter in more ways than one. The air in town had shifted, brighter mornings, softer evenings, more people lingering outside with smiles that looked a little less weighed down by cold or routine. Alan felt the change too. Things were different now. Good different. He and Maya had fallen into a rhythm so natural it surprised them both. Not rushed, not forced, just steady steps forward, dinners together, late-night conversations, afternoons in the park with the kids debating the ethics of goose antagonism. Even the Matriarchs had declared Maya an honorary granddaughter, which came with privileges and also a suspicious number of baked goods. Tonight, though, was something new. Alan stood in the community fairgrounds, an event the town held every spring but which felt especially surreal this year, because so many booths, decorations, and activities looked suspiciously like scenes from Valleystead. Lanterns strung across wooden posts, a craft corner for kids, a tiny stage for local musicians, a gardening contest with prize ribbons in the exact colors Polly had designed in-game. He looked around, stunned. I didn't expect this. Maya stepped beside him, sliding her hand into his. The town council asked for ideas, she said, smiling softly. And the matriarchs volunteered all of yours. He groaned. Oh no. They called it community engagement through digital creativity. That sounds like something my mother would say. Your mother did say it. They both laughed. Rick ran ahead, notebook in hand, pointing excitedly at a booth filled with wooden animal carvings. Dad, they have a jaguar bear. A real one. Well, wooden. But still. Polly tugged Maya toward a face painting station. Come on. We're getting sunflower cheeks. Maya glanced back at Alan with raised eyebrows. Sunflowers. Trust me, he said. It's an honor. As the kids dashed off, Alan wandered toward the edge of the fairground. A small crowd had gathered near a portable projector screen where a looping promo reel for Valleystead played. Soft music, scenes from the festival, characters gardening and crafting and adventuring. He wasn't the only one watching. Parents nodded appreciatively, kids pointed eagerly, and members of the town council whispered as if discussing something important. Maya joined him a moment later. They love it, she said. He exhaled slowly. It still feels unreal. You deserve good things to feel real, she said simply. He blinked at her. You always know exactly what to say. That's because you make it easy, she replied softly. He took her hand again, not tentatively this time, but with comfortable familiarity. I'm submitting the full pitch packet on Monday. Her eyes brightened. You're ready. I think I am, he said. Because the game isn't just code anymore. It's community. It's the kids. It's my mom and her guild. And it's you. Maya squeezed his hand. Behind them, the goose plushie at a vendor stall suddenly toppled over, startling a toddler who shrieked with delighted fear. The parents laughed. The vendor apologized. The goose plushie stared blankly at the sky. See, Maya said. Even the plush ones are cursed. Don't let the kids hear you, Alan whispered. Rick will write a whole lore document about the cursed goose kingdom. He already did, she said. He showed me. There were footnotes. Alan rubbed his face. My child. Your brilliant child, she corrected. They walked together toward the gardening contest, where Polly and the matriarchs were judging flower arrangements with more intensity than most political committees. Linda waved them over with the energy of a queen summoning her court. Alan, Maya, come look at these marigolds. They speak to me. Mom, Alan said under his breath. Please don't say the flowers speak to you. They do, dear, she insisted. Not verbally, emotionally. Maya leaned closer to him. This is your genetic legacy. Please don't remind me. Rick sprinted up holding a ribbon. Dad, I judged the beast-themed scarecrows. The jaguar bear one. I didn't know there were beast-themed scarecrows. There are now, Rick said proudly. Polly placed a sunflower crown on Maya's head. You're officially part of our guild. Maya gasped dramatically. Does this mean I have voting rights? No, Linda interjected. But you may suggest dessert recipes. Alan laughed so hard he had to lean against a post to steady himself. The fair stretched into evening, lanterns glowing softly as families drifted between booths. Music floated through the air, bright, lively, reminiscent of the in-game festival themes Alan had composed at 2 in the morning years ago. As the crowd thinned and the kids finished their last round of games, Alan and Maya found themselves standing a little apart from everyone else under the lights. Maya looked up at him. You know, she said, you built a world for your children, and they let me be part of it. You fit, he said quietly. In every way. She rested her head against his shoulder. So do you. With me. For a moment, everything felt perfectly aligned. The laughter in the background, the distant shouts of the matriarchs, the warmth of Maya's hand in his, the soft glow of lanterns overhead. He turned toward her. Maya. I'm really happy. I know, she whispered. Me too. He kissed her, soft and steady, surrounded by the sounds of the fair, the glow of lights, and the world he'd built piece by piece, now fuller than anything he'd imagined. When they broke apart, Rick shouted from behind a booth. Called it again. Polly added. Dad, you owe me $5. Linda proclaimed. Finally. The matriarchs burst into loud applause. Alan closed his eyes and groaned. They're never going to let me live this down. Maya slipped her hand into his. Would you want them to? He looked at his kids, at his mother, at Maya, and smiled. No, he admitted. Not even a little. The night continued warm and bright, the valley of his life fuller than ever. And for the first time in a long time, Alan felt like he was living in a world he didn't just build, but one he belonged in. Epilogue: New builds, new beginnings. The Valleystead pitch presentation was scheduled for 3 p.m., which meant Alan had been pacing since 8. He dressed in his favorite dark blue button-down, the shirt Maya had once complimented, the one that made him look like a human who sleeps occasionally. He wasn't sure if that was a compliment, but he took it. Rick sat on the couch reviewing one of his monster notebooks, occasionally offering, "Dad, don't panic," in increasingly unhelpful tones. Polly had taken it upon herself to brush Alan's hair, which she claimed calmed him down. Didn't, but he let her do it anyway. "Dad," Rick said finally, "you're going to do great. People like things that are fun." Polly nodded enthusiastically. "And your game is fun." His throat tightened. "Thanks, you two." A knock came at the door. Polly squealed. "Maya." Maya stepped inside holding a small paper bag and a soft smile. "Good morning, team." She kissed Alan's cheek, light, warm, grounding. "Ready?" "No," he admitted. "That's okay," she said. "You don't have to be ready to be good." Rick whispered to Polly. "She's like a wise wizard." "I heard that," Maya said, laughing. She pulled a thermos from the bag and handed it to Alan. "Chamomile mint tea. For nerves." "You're magical," he murmured. "I try." The video meeting started at exactly 3 p.m. Representatives from the indie game studio popped up on screen. 2 producers, a creative director, and a project coordinator with a headset slightly too large for their head. Alan introduced himself, walked through the purpose of the game, the mechanics, the community, the stress test numbers, and the longevity potential. Maya stood behind the camera, offering quiet smiles and encouraging nods. The kids watched from the hallway, holding homemade signs that said, "Go Dad!" and "You can do it!" And Alan did. His voice steadied. His explanations flowed. The passion for the project, what it meant to him, to his children, to the unexpected community it created, came through clearer than any debugged script or balanced monster. When he finished, the creative director leaned forward. "This is beautiful," they said. "Not just technically, emotionally." The project coordinator wiped their eyes. "The goose is my favorite." Alan laughed. "Mine too. Sometimes. We'd like to move forward," the producer added. "With you. With this." Alan's breath caught. "You mean?" "We're greenlighting Valleystead for development partnership." He didn't say anything at first. Then he heard Rick from behind the doorway shout, "I told you!" and Polly yell, "Daddy won." Alan finally managed, "Thank you. Very much." After the call, the house erupted into celebration. Rick ran laps around the living room. Polly played imaginary festival music on her recorder. Maya hugged Alan so tightly he felt the tension melt out of his shoulders. "I knew you could do it," she whispered into his chest. He held her back. "I didn't. Not until today." "You didn't have to know," she said. "You just had to try." His voice softened. "Stay for dinner?" She brushed her thumb along his wrist. "Try and make me leave." Later that night, after the kids were asleep and the dishes were washed, they walked to the balcony together. The sky above was clear, scattered with stars that shimmered like soft pixels. "Pretty night," Maya murmured. "Yeah," Alan said. "It is." They stood in silence for a moment, a comfortable, companionable quiet. Then Maya spoke, voice warm. "The kids asked me something earlier." Alan blinked. "What?" "They asked if I'd be around for the next festival update." He swallowed. "And, would you?" She slid her hand into his. "Alan, I'm not going anywhere." He felt something inside him settle, like a piece clicking into place. The finished line of code. Patched connection. A world completed not by logic, but by love. He leaned down and kissed her. Softly, fully, without hesitation this time. When they parted, she smiled. "What's next, world builder?" He looked inside at the home that felt fuller, warmer, brighter than it ever had. "Everything," he said, and for the first time in a long time he truly believed it. The Matriarch Council convenes. The Matriarch Guild Hall was normally a serene haven of gardening tools, pastel aprons, and crocheted chair cozies. Today, however, it resembled a strategic war room. Lady Linda stood at the head of the long wooden table, a teacup in hand. Around her sat the venerable members of the Matriarchs, Joyce, Deborah, Millicent, and Ruth, each armed with clipboards, pens, and the kind of determined expressions that foretold dramatic interference in someone else's happiness. "Ladies," Linda began solemnly, "we must discuss Operation Sunflower." Deborah gasped. "The plan has a name now?" Joyce nodded approvingly. "It's official, then?" Millicent leaned forward. "Is this about Alan and Maya?" "Yes," Linda said. "And their upcoming relationship stabilization." Ruth scribbled notes. "Is that what the young people call it?" "No," Linda admitted. "But it should be." The women murmured agreement. Joyce cleared her throat dramatically. "Phase 1 is complete. We have successfully created situations that force proximity." Deborah raised her hand. "Such as?" "The gardening contest, the apron tradition, the ceremonial goose avoidance training." "That one wasn't intentional," Millicent muttered. "Regardless," Joyce continued, "they bonded." Linda beamed. "My son deserves someone who makes him smile again. And Maya? She is a delight. A delightful delight." The Matriarchs nodded sagely. Ruth flipped to a fresh page. "So, Phase 2. Linda clasped her hands. "Phase 2 is subtle encouragement." Joyce blinked. "Define subtle." "We will do nothing obvious," Linda said, raising an eyebrow. but we will gently and invisibly support their blossoming romance. This was met with enthusiastic murmurs. Deborah raised her hand again. For example, no traps, Linda said immediately, looking at her pointedly. Deborah sank lower in her seat. It was one net, and you nearly caught Alan. He moved unexpectedly. Millicent sniffed. Traps are off the table. Fine. What is on the table? Linda paced slowly. Small nudges. Invitations to tea. Reminders that Maya is welcome. Opportunities for them to talk. We don't push, we guide. Joyce wrote it down. Guidance, not force. Exactly, Linda said. They've come so far on their own. We just steady the rails. There was a communal nod of approval, the kind that could move mountains or bake 600 cookies in under an hour. Now, Linda said, placing her palms on the table. Phase 3, Millicent whispered. There's a Phase 3? Oh yes, Joyce whispered back. Linda's eyes sparkled. Phase 3 is celebration. Ruth perked up. A party. Of course, Linda said. A party, but not too obvious. A congratulations on something party. Deborah tapped her pen. What's the something? We'll figure that out later, Linda said with authority. But when the time comes, we will be prepared with decorations, baked goods, and at least one poorly rehearsed song. Joyce clapped her hands. Marvelous. The room fell into excited chatter. Ideas for banners, menus, dancing vegetable mascots, and several inappropriate goose-themed suggestions. As the women drafted plans with alarming enthusiasm, Linda stepped aside, smiling to herself. She knew her son. She knew that quiet softness he carried, the careful way he loved his children, the hesitance that came from old hurts and deep responsibility. And she had seen something in Maya. Gentleness, humor, strength. When Alan looked at her, he looked like the man he used to be. No, more than that. He looked like the man he'd grown into. Linda lifted her teacup in a private toast. To love, she whispered, and the gentle nudges required to get it moving. Behind her, Deborah announced, I've made a list of acceptable celebration cakes. Linda sighed warmly. Yes, this was her guild. And maybe, just maybe, love didn't stand a chance against them.